The Mage's route is open to students with a sharp brain and unyielding dedication. Magi have access to immense and terrible arcane power, which is only disclosed to the most dedicated practitioners. Magi wear just cloth armor to avoid interfering with their spellcasting, although arcane shields and enchantments further provide protection. Magi may also call blasts of fire to incinerate distant targets and cause large regions to explode, lighting groups of opponents ablaze to keep enemies away. The Mage is a DPS caster that specializes in burst damage and spells with a wide area of effect. Damage dealing and crowd management are their major responsibilities in a group, which they do with the usage of polymorph. Mage damage is reinfused with spells like counterspell and spell steal at endgame levels. Conjuring food and drink is another mage utility spell, as is the ability to travel to important cities and open portals for party members. Magi inflict ranged damage while controlling opponent players with snare effects and polymorph in PvP. The most prevalent arcanists are Magi, who may be found all throughout Azeroth. They concentrate on magic that produces and modifies things, usually to inflict harm on their foes and increase the strength of their friends. Some choose to become dedicated mages, while others receive a familiar, which is a regular animal that gains new abilities and transforms into a magical beast when called to service by a magician. Magi also have a deep understanding of the workings of arcane energy, allowing them to effectively oppose most magic. Those that are committed to and have a natural preference for one of the specialist schools become more entrenched. They may now select between evocation and transmutation as their chosen school. The Kirantor's Magi initially learned how to use the elements of ice and fire to perform spells. Magi may also summon elementals, most often water elementals, although they can also call air, earth and fire elementals. Queen Azshara, a Naga, is the greatest mortal wizard ever to have lived. She may not even be mortal anymore. Elves were the first known mages on Azeroth. They existed before the Well of Eternity shattering and the exile of the High Elves, who resided on the well's banks and wielded its immense magical abilities. The creation and maintenance of early Kaldorei civilization was characterized by direct manipulation of magic taken from the Well of Eternity. The continual usage of the well drew the notice of Sargeras and the Burning Legion, and their arrival triggered the Battle of the Ancients, a vast war. Even though the mortal races of Azeroth triumphed, the continent of Kalimdor was fractured, and a whirling, seething miasma of sea storms surged into the blank region where the Well of Eternity formerly stood. The well's waters dissipated into the atmosphere as a result of the Great Sundering, spreading magic all across the planet. The majority of Night Elves were persuaded by this event to forsake arcane magic and accept Malfurion Stormrage's demand for druidism. Many of the Highborn rebelled against this way of life and were banished to Lordaeron, where they formed the realm of Quel'Thalas and became the High Elves. The High Elves promised to teach 100 humans the skill of magic in return for military help from Arathor when their realm was besieged by Zulaman trolls. The arcane arts have spread over Azeroth thanks to these two races. The conjurers of Azeroth who perished during the First War were masters of their craft, but they were unprepared for the hardships of battle. A new generation of Magi, formerly conjurers' trainees, was resolved to escape a similar fate. This new order was obliged to seek for untapped magical energies to command in their fight against the savage orcs, committing themselves to the command of more aggressive and destructive magic. The Kirantor are steadfast in their attempts to safeguard the people, whether in their sanctuary, at the Violet Citadel or in Dalaran, or in the numerous battles of Lordaeron. The Arch-Magi of Dalaran were possibly the most powerful Magi in the Eastern Kingdoms. When the mages thought they were in danger from the Lich King, they transferred to the city to Northrend, then to the Broken Isles to help defeat the Burning Legion's most recent assault. Outsiders must prove themselves to the Kirantor, who are ready to identify fellow wizards as comrades. Wands, daggers, one-handed swords and staves are among the weapons available to Magi. Wands are held in the primary hand and continue to fire once manually begun. They do not need any ammo, a mage's only option for armor is cloth. Single-target damaging spells and utility spells are examples of arcane spells. Mages may utilize arcane spells to erase curses, manipulate crowds, absorb damage, transport themselves or others to important capital cities. Slowfall, counterspell, increase players' intelligence stats, save mana in the form of mana jewels, manufacture food and drink for themselves or others, and many other things. Fire spells are generally damage-dealing spells that deliver single-target and area of effect damage. Damage over time effects are common in fire spells. Frost spells typically deliver single-target and area of effect damage with a focus on chilling effects. Almost every frost spell has a chill or freeze effect that immobilizes an adversary completely or partly. It may be frozen in situ, called a root, or have its movement slowed, called a snare. Frost specialists, Magi, may enhance these freezing effects even further and boost frost damage output to acceptable levels. Kiting is a fighting style that the mage may employ with the use of ice spells. For any cloth-wearing armor class, tailoring and enchanting are reasonable alternatives. As one level, this enables you to construct good armor and different enchants from disenchanting produced things. At higher levels, Tailoring also boosts cloth drops. Alchemy is beneficial for people who want speedy potion healing and elixirs and flask bonuses. This profession is also useful for earning money and providing guild runes. Herbalism gives components for alchemy and inscription, as well as being a great way to get money. Cooking is useful for non-combat health regeneration and food buffs, although it is less necessary than other non-healing classes since mages can conjure basic regen dishes. First aid is useful for in-combat health restoration and regeneration with little downtime, and fishing is a fantastic way to improve your culinary skills. Magi are generally entrusted with ranged DPS, AoE, counterspell, spellsteal, crowd control, and supplying nourishment in a group or raid setting. In addition to supplying water, food, buffs, and portals, the endgame mage serves as a utility class. Magi are required to serve free food and drinks to their party or raid. Magi are classified as glass cannons in PvP, a design concept that offers them high burst damage at the expense of minimal life and armor. They are one of the classes with the most potential for doing the most damage in the least period of time. They will remain back in group PvP and use polymorph to manage crowds and pick off opponents from a distance. Magi often AoE to prevent node grabs or nuke flag bearers as quickly as can, depending on the battlefield and the scenario. A proficient frost mage is a tough opponent in solo PvP. Stuns and maximum damage output are the most common uses of fire, but they come at a cost in terms of time and mana. Arcane has a medium damage output at a cheap mana and time cost. If opponents are frozen initially, Arcane is most beneficial in battlegrounds. The wizard uses freeze when an adversary approaches or strikes, then blinks away and attacks. The freeze ability offers you around 5 seconds of unbroken attack time on average. And that is the story of the mage. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.